gentlemen, the name of this show is The Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano. And with me, I am very fortunate to have a man who's got such a busy life, and that is our, right now, and for a long time, town supervisor, and here he is, Larry Cantwell.
Hi, Phyllis. How you doing?
Thank you so much for coming. I know how busy you are between campaigning and running the show. It's very hard.
Well, there's a lot going on for sure, yes.
I wanted to show this terrific picture that I got from the mail, and it shows you with your two very competent colleagues that you've been working with for the last year and almost 3/4, I would say, and that is, of course, Sylvia Ogilvie and Peter Van Scoyoc. And what I was amazed at when I looked at this picture was I tried to figure out the amount of experience that all three of you have in the jobs that you have done in the town and the village of East Hampton. It's amazing.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but it's a remarkable number of years. And when you take into consideration the fact that all three of us at one time or another served on the town planning board, for example, and you look at the years of experience that Sylvia and Peter had on the planning board, on the zoning board, and as incumbent town board members, and then my 40 years of experience, working as a town board member many years ago, and then working for over 30 years in the village of East Hampton, and now as supervisor. Yeah, there's a lot of experience.
I can hardly hold the card up.
Yeah.
So much experience. Let me tell you something. As a school administrator, I love new teachers and all that, but you can't. But that experience that people have who have been there, done it, who know it inside and out, is very important.
It certainly is, and the truth is, the three of us get along well. We like each other. We've developed a great working relationship with Kathy Burke-Gonzalez and Fred.
This airport.
And Fred Overton as well. And it's nice working with them because, truthfully, they're only trying to figure out what's best for the community. And party politics is not involved. We try to work together and create an example and a tone, at town board meetings, and give the public an opportunity to participate, but treat each other and the public with dignity and respect, which we feel is very important.
And one of the things I think I have noticed a great deal about this board is that you've done so very much since you've been in. I mean, it's amazing when you really, look at how much has happened in this last year and 3/4. It's almost staggering because there was so much to do. I've often said that the town grew very quickly, and it's now time to really take a look at the infrastructure and all of the things that need to be brought up to. But in all of the things you've done, you guys have always weighed this side and that side and didn't rush to judgment on things, but took your time until you came up with the best thing you could possibly come up with that really was going to work for the community.
Well, it's important that you do your homework and that you analyze and study issues as carefully as you can in terms of what the facts are and what the implications are. And then, have your series of public meetings and let the public be heard and take into consideration, what the public is telling you. That's how you get, especially when you're changing legislation. I mean, some of the administrative decisions, you don't have the luxury of having a hearing or even having a meeting. You've got to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis, whether it's, how to deal with a severe, snowstorm or making day-to-day personnel decisions and trying to provide advice and leadership in town hall. But the legislative stuff sometimes takes a little bit more time. And although we have been successful in adopting, a number of important pieces of legislation, for example, we adopted legislation to restrict new nightclubs because we know the proliferation and, of those are having an overall negative impact, or the ban on single-use plastic bags.
Which I love, I must add. That's one of my favorite things of all, because I can't stand to drive by and see it in a tree or on the ground, or have to go and stop my car and maybe get killed trying to pick up one that I see. But that's really a great one.
We've adopted restrictions on establishing new large chain stores, in East Hampton. And, when the new building was built in Wainscott, that's very close to the highway, that was something that was unforeseen at the time and went through the process and already had their approvals when we took office. And then it was built, and, I think all of us realized the setbacks there were not adequate, so we changed the law to require greater setbacks. So, some things take time. I mean, we haven't resolved the issue of a rental registry. We did have a proposal, and we had several public meetings about that 9 months or so ago. And then we listened carefully to what the public had to say. And, we now have a new law that we have proposed, which is significantly different than what was originally proposed, because we wanted to make the process easier and simpler. And we will have a public hearing on that, in November.
November the 17th at the
17th or 19th.
Oh, the 19th. You're right. You're right.
And we chose the American Legion, so the community wants to come out and let us know what they think or ask questions. I mean, that's the forum to do it. I mean, I'm also proud, honestly, that we've had some of the largest public meetings, I think, in the history of the town when we were dealing with the airport, and trying to come up with reasonable restrictions. We had large meetings right in this building, 300 or 400 people. We had a very large meeting, in Montauk when the pot boiled over on 4th of July weekend. And, in every case, I think those meetings were run well. The public got an opportunity to participate. And whether, speakers agreed or disagreed with us, we always gave them an opportunity to be heard, and we treated everyone, regardless of their point of view, with respect. And we listened to what people have to say. And that's a very important part of what a town board must do. I mean, we must listen to the community, we must bring the community along, and we need to have the community support when we're making changes or making important decisions.
Yes, and I know I'm thinking about the rental registry. I've heard about the new version, saw the new version, looked at it very closely, and the biggest and most important thing is it does not prevent anybody from renting. They just really are going to now rent with protection for themselves by making sure that they have a few things that are necessary, like a system for carbon monoxide and fire prevention and things like that. So it looks like it's going to be a real shoo-in, because it's a very convenient and easy thing for those who feel they want to rent their.
Well, I don't know if it's a shoo-in, but
I like to think it's a shoo-in.
We have a severe overcrowding problem in this community, and we have to face up to it. And we have made, I think, important strides improving code enforcement. We've added code enforcement. We've added training. They're bringing more cases. They're bringing even more important cases, and we're making progress there. But we still have issues that we have to resolve, whether it's, overcrowded year-round housing in Springs, or, high turnover rentals in Montauk or in Amagansett. This is just a tool. I mean, it's not a silver bullet. We have to continue to be, professional in our code enforcement. We have to continue to make that a priority. But we also have to try to give them the tools to do their job as effectively and efficiently as we can.
Another thing that I think is really quite astounding that you guys have been willing to face and really do something about, which is your Committee on Sustainability. They just gave a report, and I can't wait to have a couple of those people on my show as well, because I am so completely into the fact that we have to start recognizing that our Earth is very precious, and we need to do everything we can to help. And what you guys have begun to look at and have a goal of, I think it's 2030, 2020, to be completely sustainable, I'm thrilled to death with that. Not just because I happen to have solar panels. When I had this much money, it went into solar panels rather than,
And how's that working out? How much money are you saving on a monthly basis, do you know?
Are you
or
kidding?
Annual basis?
I think my last bill was $12.
Yeah.
For, and in August I have my son and his wife and daughter, and we're using everything electrical all the time. I mean, and it's.
And that's the key to it. I mean, if you can make it financially feasible, if you make if the payback, when the payback period becomes shortened, and people can see not only are they making a positive contribution to the environment by reducing the demand for fossil fuels, but they can also save money. That's really the key, and that's the goal on a townwide basis. It really is to be carbon neutral. To be as energy efficient and sustainable and independent, as we can, is an important goal, because it's important not just for trying to make our contribution to the issue of climate change and sea level rise, which is a major threat here in our community, but it's also to make our economy as efficient as possible and to save money as well.
Yes, I really, I also drive a Prius, as a matter of fact. I'm very into that area.
Well, you're practicing what you believe in, which is great.
I do. I mean, I have to. I have 2 grandchildren, like you, and I have to do everything I can to save the earth for them, is the way I look at it.
And the truth is, I mean, after 40 years, I've had a terrific career, but one of the reasons why I'm still dedicated, get up every morning, trying to make East Hampton a better place to live and to work, is that I have 2 grandchildren as well who live here. I'm fortunate they live in the community, and I want them to be able to share the things that I had when I grew up here. I think that's really important, because that's really what the essence of the community is all about. And we've talked about, my growing up here.
I would like you to tell people about you growing up in Amagansett.
You love that story.
First of all, I mean, anything.
As an Italian, you can appreciate it.
Yeah, and also because, I know what this area was like in the 50s when I first came out. I like to say I was years old. I don't like to say how old I was when I first came out to Jamesport, because my aunt married a Squires, and I remember the first morning that I woke up and I went down to the beach in my pajamas and I said out loud, "This is for me." And boy, oh boy, that's been the goal of my life. That's why I'm here. This is for me. And this area is just so special, so precious. And I envy you, having spent all of your life growing up in that incredible area. So tell us about it.
I feel very fortunate. I mean, my dad, growing up, my dad was a commercial fisherman. My mom cleaned houses for extra money to help make ends meet. I remember fondly, riding my bicycle to school, playing baseball in the summer, growing up in Amagansett around a large Italian family, the DeSuno family. That's the family. My mom was a DeSuno. People often ask me, what's it like being supervisor? People are always, you're in the spotlight, you can't go anywhere, everybody knows who you are. And I say, well, it's not any different than when I was growing up, in Amagansett. We all lived in the same neighborhood. And, when I was a young boy, if I was fresh or I did something wrong, there was always someone looking after me, looking out the kitchen window. In those days, traditional families, husbands worked, mom stayed home and raised a family. And there was always one of my aunts or maybe one of my uncles, watching what was going on the street with all the kids. And if I did something wrong, by the time I got home, my mother greeted me at the front door, grabbed me by the ear and said, "You are fresh today." So it's kind of like being supervisor.
Oh, God. Yeah, what an analogy. Yeah, I know. I had a similar experience, even though it was in the Bronx. I remember talking in the church one time, and some woman looked at us and went over and then told my grandmother. My grandmother told my mother, and I couldn't talk in a church anymore because I knew somebody was watching.
Yeah.
And that's having that kind of neighborhood and being really from here, you certainly have seen a lot of changes and have worked very hard to make sure that the character of this area kind of remains the same.
Well, it's very important because it was such a big value when I was growing. I mean, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a no trespassing sign. I mean, even private properties, you had access to walk across. No one bothered anybody. You'd cut across the backyard. You know, you could go pretty much anywhere, you know, that you wanted. And that's a value that I hold in high regard. I mean, you know, I've been driving on the beach and enjoying fishing and the outdoors, you know, all of my life. So, you know, protecting that value is very important.
And also, when you're protecting all of those values, you also have to be able to pay for them. And apparently I know this 2% cap that has come down from the governor is a difficult one. But yet you guys have really done an incredible job with the budget.
Well, we've done it because we've been willing to cut some expenses where we could. I mean, for example, you know, we balanced the 2014 budget. We produced a $1.6 million surplus in that budget alone. We adopted one budget and proposed a second budget now, both of which were under the state tax cap. And we've been able to cut some expenses. You know, we've lowered the total debt of the town by $10 million. We took a third of the remaining outstanding debt and refinanced it to take advantage of lower interest rates. And we closed the scavenger waste plant, which really wasn't providing any value, wasn't helping to protect the environment, to save ultimately $800,000 a year. So we've been able to accrue some savings in areas that really had no impact on services to the community, but saved real dollars, large sums of them. And because of that, we've been able to redirect some of those funds. For example, this year we've proposed to increase our police department, our code enforcement department, our fire marshal's office, and our building department, all critical departments, you know, in the community for enforcing our local codes, because we've been able to make savings in other areas of the budget. So we're able to make those increases because of the savings and still stay under the state tax cap. So that's important.
And they were all about health and safety of the people of the town, and that's very important too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very, you know, we want to make sure we take care of our people. And also, I know when you came in, there was an enormous amount of money in the CPF fund, which you have really done a great job. I know, being a member of the Clearwater Beach Association, you have purchased some of that land that borders Hog Creek now, which has just been terrific. And also, I know the Lake Montauk area, you've bought out some of those places. You know, any way you can stop a septic system from leaching into water or, you know, opening and building along water is so important. So you have done quite a bit of buying of property, and I applaud you for that because I know what open space means.
Well, it's the best insurance policy we can get to protect the environment. And we know, I mean, this past summer we had toxic algae blooms in Wainscott Pond, in Georgia Pond, in Hook Pond, in Fort Pond, in Montauk. And we know we have, some areas where there's marginal water quality on the very south end of Lake Montauk, and also in Coonsfoot Cove. There's a small area on the north end of Accabonac Harbor, and there's a small area on the south end of 3 Mile Harbor. So the warning signs are there, and protecting water quality has got to be our most important effort. We get our
couldn't agree with you more.
We get our drinking water from the ground.
Yes.
Pure drinking water. We need to protect the land, so we protect the drinking water beneath it. And we need to protect all of our surface waters because that's where we swim, that's where we clam, that's where we fish, You know, it's an important part of our recreation. It's an important reason why we all live here, and it's an important part of the economy. So you know, we have been targeting acquisitions under CPF in the wetland areas, you know, where otherwise septic systems are going to get built, and we know that groundwater will carry that nitrogen into the harbor and ultimately create more problems.
I know, it's really, well, you know, I try to tell people and help them to realize that, first of all, anybody who puts in builds anything and puts in a new septic system, or puts in a new septic system, you know, it's all obsolete unless it mitigates nitrogen. And the few that are known are very expensive. So we're hoping for Suffolk County to come up with something soon that we will be able to work on to be able to change. I know I am looking forward to the day I can put in a new septic system at my house. You know, this area can never be sewered because, number one, sewers don't always work either, and it's just too large and there's too much ground to be covered. So septic systems are how we were going to have to go. And I'm hoping that at some point when the CPF will hopefully have as part of it a clause that will allow for water quality, and we can then go on and maybe do something like we did with the oil tanks, where we can help people to get the better septic systems that will mitigate nitrogen. I mean, I'm not near any water that I would be, that mine is, I have to do it right away, but I want to do it anyway. I really want to get this done, and I'm hoping that that will come along.
We finished a townwide wastewater study, and it has identified, a large number of faulty septic systems, especially those that are around our harbors and bays. So we've put together a pretty good database of where the problems are. And you're right, out in East Hampton, out here, compared to Western Suffolk, large-scale sewer projects are not going to be part of the solution. It's not going to be affordable. We don't have the high-density development where it becomes more efficient than it would here, nor do we want it. I mean, that's why we did all the planning and zoning that we did over the past decades to avoid the need for sewers. But we do have to find a way to upgrade these faulty septic systems. And one of the ways to do it is to get the county to approve some of the new technology that is available, and then put together a plan to encourage people to replace those septic systems. And the possibility will exist to use some portion of CPF to help provide some incentive for people who can't, afford it. And we're putting together a plan. The CPF reauthorization will be on the ballot next November, a year from now.
Oh.
And we will include in that the opportunity for people to vote on a proposal that, as Fred Thiel has gotten the legislation amended, that would allow up to 20% of the CPF funds to be used for water quality improvements. And that could provide the funding necessary to really help save and protect water quality in the town of East Hampton.
Well, I'm glad to know that you do feel, as I do, that it is the key issue. I mean, if you can't drink your water, what you have is
we have our challenges here, in East Hampton when it comes to, trying to provide affordable housing, which we have been active in. We have we have a project that the town board has already approved to build condominiums that will allow first-time home buyers to buy an affordable, apartment in the $200,000 range. It's really a very exciting program for new first-time home buyers. We have the housing authorities recently announced proposal to buy a parcel in Amagansett to build 30 or 40 apartments for mixed income renters, low, moderate, and moderate income people. And we have a proposal that we've adopted to encourage apartments over commercial space around our business districts. And we're also looking at modifying the current law that allows people to build an affordable apartment in their residence to make that more flexible and easier to accomplish for people who want to rent an apartment from their home legally. So we're trying to make progress with that. But there are many issues that we face. I mean, the issues in Montauk, code enforcement in Springs, infrastructure improvements. I mean, the list goes on. But clearly, if we don't have a clean environment, if we don't have productive marine resources, if we don't have, safe drinking water, then, we're in trouble. And we can't afford as a community to let that happen.
What's better than going out and harvesting a bunch of clams or oysters and coming home and eating them? I mean, there's just nothing.
Not much.
I mean, that between that and the farm stands,
Yeah.
It's
And the oyster, it's funny. I mean, oysters were. I mean, there had been, commercial oystering in Gardiner's Bay. Private companies did that on a large scale. But oystering has really come into its own in our harbors and bays. We have a number of young entrepreneurs that are growing oysters and selling them all over the country. Yeah. And the oyster population is increasing really nicely in our harbors and bays.
Larry, that is why we are all going to go out on November the 3rd and vote for you.
Well, that would be terrific.
Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that this place continues to be what we want it to be, exactly. Which is a place to swim, fish, clam, oyster, and all of those wonderful things that we have here. The economy is the environment is the economy, and I'm so happy that you are well aware of that. So my trust is in you.
I'll do the best I can.
I know. That's why we're going to get out and vote for you. And your pals, Sylvia and Peter.
And we're a good team.
Yes, indeed.
My message is keep the team together. It's